Hi, Mr. Anga again. I'm going to interview Miss Afghanistan, Miss Face of Humanity, Afghanistan. Yeah, because it's morning there where she is right now. I think it's 9:30 in the morning and it's 9:30 in the evening here. Mr. Anga, you're still with the same school? Let's just wait for her. Many people are now sleeping here in Asia. Okay, that's good to know, Mr. Anga. Hello, Luca Gasparello. Ernie. Hi, Ernie. Let's just wait for Miss Face of Humanity, Afghanistan. She's coming in 3 minutes. It's actually morning in her location, and she was the one who requested for this time. Hi, Abiel. Why are you still awake, Abiel? Let's wait for Miss Afghanistan. Okay, I think I have to invite her simply. Hi, Ernie. I see Serena is here. Okay, she is here right now. Actually, Miss Face of Humanity is, the competition that all these women that I'm interviewing will be joining, Mr. Angar. So the organization, which is based in Toronto, Canada, asked me to interview all the candidates. So basically, we will get to know them, the girls, their advocacy, something about their country, since their competition will be on April 2 in Toronto, Canada. I think she's having difficulty. Okay, she's here. Oh, wow. Hi, Serena.
Hello, how are you?
Finally,
I
I
am so
met you.
excited to finally be able to chat with you.
Yeah, you're so beautiful.
Oh my goodness, thank you. Thank you.
I mean, you're so pretty in photos, but now that I've seen you in video, my gosh, I couldn't believe you're so beautiful.
Oh my gosh, you're making me blush. Thank you. Thank you. That's very
That's
kind of
true.
you.
You're so refreshing, so beautiful. So, my gosh, yeah, you're more beautiful in video, right?
Thank you.
Okay. So definitely it's evening here and morning there in your location. Later on, here in Asia, most of the people are sleeping now, but definitely they will be watching this later on. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor and a privilege for me to have this interview with Miss Face of Humanity, Afghanistan, and let's call her simply Serena. Hi, Serena. Will you please greet our viewers?
Absolutely. Thank you for everyone joining this live. My name is Serena. I am Afghan Canadian. I reside in Toronto, Canada. And it's a pleasure to be here with all of you to speak about Afghanistan and the current situation in Afghanistan and a little bit about my candidacy running for Miss Face of Humanity 2021.
Okay, so I'm so excited to talk to you, Serena. First, is this your first time to compete in an international pageant, or you had previous experience in beauty pageants?
So this is actually my very first time participating in any type of pageant. It's never something I thought I would see myself doing.
Really? And what made you, what made you decide to finally give it a try?
So there were two reasons why I decided to give this, take on this opportunity. The first one is when it comes to, I made a promise that anytime when it comes to any platform that's a global platform or an international platform, that Afghanistan needs to be present. So whether it's a pageant or a soccer team, whatever it might be, it's so important for Afghans to create space for themselves. Uh, so that's one of the reasons I pursued it. The other reason was Miss Face of Humanity is like no other pageant. It is a
Mm.
pageant based on advocacy, and I respect that so much because we're moving away from objectifying women and actually empowering women. And in speaking about being beyond beautiful and beyond powerful, and I love that concept, and it sits really well with my own values.
Yeah, I do agree with you. And that's the reason why I was so excited. I've been so excited interviewing Miss Face of Humanity Queens because your advocacy is actually something that is really happening. With due respect to other pageants all over the world, right? We have noticed that advocacies and other competitions were just advocacies created for the purpose of the competition. But here, you are all passionate. You are really making it work, right? So it's really a different platform, no, the global showcase. Now, who actually encouraged you? Who introduced you to Miss Face of Humanity?
So I was introduced to Miss Face of Humanity. I believe her name is Anna, and she is based in Russia at the moment. So through the recruitment process, that was my primary contact, and I came across Miss Face of Humanity just through social media because there was a lot of hashtags on advocacy, and when I was searching up advocacy organizations, this is one of the ones
Mhm.
that appeared.
Okay, so we are all aware, Serena, no, about the situation or the condition in Afghanistan. So may we know what your advocacy is?
My advocacy primary focuses on ensuring that there's transparency and accountability when humanitarian aid is being sent to Afghanistan, to ensure that the money that we are fundraising here and that we're sending back home with the
Mhm.
hopes of reaching families that are in need, that it actually reaches those families. And funds are not sent to a terrorist organization. So part of my advocacy focuses on working with organizations within Afghanistan that have shown accountability and they've shown proof that they're on the ground and they're working with families, supplying humanitarian aid. And just raising more awareness
Mhm.
around that and helping fundraise for such organizations, and then also speaking with the bigger organizations in terms of what their accountability is, how much of that money is actually going to Afghanistan. And sometimes, unfortunately, when it comes to nonprofits, you're looking at only 68% of those funds reaching the people in Afghanistan. So that's one component of my advocacy, and my other component is uh, focusing on raising awareness for the human rights of Afghanistan with a specific focus on women's rights and children's rights, especially when it comes to
Mhm.
education and the right to their human rights, which is so important, and it's being violated all across Afghanistan by the Taliban right now.
Yeah. Okay. So what is actually, what do you think you could do in order for you to fully realize, no, your advocacy, especially in Afghanistan? Because Afghanistan is facing this problem right now. And how do you go about promoting your advocacy? Are you not censored? Are you not stopped from doing what you're supposed to do? I mean, is there such a thing that you encounter?
Absolutely. So I've encountered several different reactions during my advocacy. So I've also held numerous protests within Ontario to advocate for human rights and also raise
Mm,
awareness. So sometimes after protest, I have received threats. I have received email threats from certain military affiliation from neighboring countries.
mhm,
And then on the regular, anytime I post about Afghanistan, there's a slew of negative comments, and some of
mm,
them are very misogynistic and very threatening because, unfortunately, in a world like this, we're still very intimidated by women that are speaking for their rights. And it
mm,
blows my mind that we live in a time and day when women are saying, hey, I want my human rights and I need my rights to education. And my purpose right now is amplifying the voices of my sisters that are currently protesting in Afghanistan. And if
mm,
women in Afghanistan are saying they want their freedom and they want access to their rights, then it is my obligation to ensure that that messaging is amplified. Um,
yeah.
it's really tough because I do have family in Afghanistan. I have my brothers and my sister that live there, and my extended family. So, in regards to that, I've had to be very careful in um, while I'm advocating, but still maintaining privacy. So, unfortunately, I've had to remove my last name from everything online. There's a
Mm,
lot of security measures that I need to take into place, even when I go to protest, making sure I don't um, like I'm not exposing my family and things of that nature because a couple months, 3 months ago, the Taliban located my family and my nephews were taken from the mosque and they were brutally beaten up. So in Afghanistan, my family also advocates for women's rights and women's education. We have two um, schools that we run that were focused on girls that were set behind that couldn't access education prior, and then girls that uh,
mm,
were having difficulty like accessing and had a lot of barriers to school. And then also adolescent boys that were faced with being breadwinners in their houses and couldn't access regular school because of fees. So my family has been doing school without any tuition fees or anything of that sort. And it's very
mm,
rights focused where it teaches you your rights in Islam, it teaches you your rights as a woman. And so the Taliban have targeted our school and our house, so we've had to unfortunately shut that down for right now. And because of that affiliation, like I need to be really careful with the type of people I interact with because unfortunately there are a lot
mm.
of Talib supporters, even active on social media. So I do get some days if I have a protest and I speak against the Taliban, the next day I wake up with 50 hateful messages telling me I should go die. So moments like
Mhm.
that do get difficult, but at the same time, when I think about the greater picture and I remain silent, it's not going to help the fight of the women in Afghanistan, and there's no room to remain silent anymore.
Wow. Well, I'm lost for words, no, with what I've heard about what you shared, no, in Afghanistan. I hope your advocacy will be supported, by majority of people all around the world, right? No, because I mean, we need women like you. Women, we need a queen like you who would really fight for all these causes, right? Uh, Oh, let's go on the lighter side of, personality. Uh, how would you describe yourself? Who is the real Serena?
Absolutely. So I am. a little bit of an introvert, but also very extroverted. I love hiking. I love writing poetry. I love staying active. I have a big family, so I'm always busy with my family, and I love my friends. Like, I love adventure. I do enjoy reading. I also have a dog, so I love animals and animal rights, and there's I think that's me in a nutshell. And then also, like, my heart is in nonprofit. So I've been, the last 3 years of my career, I've dedicated to the nonprofit sector, which focuses on advocacy and children's rights and access to education. So anything, I think, for me that really touches my soul is when we can help others access their rights and be the best version of themselves that they can be by supplying them the resources to get there.
Yeah. Okay. So you mentioned that's good. No, that's amazing. You mentioned that it's your first time to plunge into this kind of competition. Okay. Although the Miss Face of Humanity doesn't want to be called a pageant, but there's a component of pageants, right? You have to wear your gown, your diplomatic wears, and all like that. Uh, uh, what are some of the preparations that you're doing in order for you to really, position yourself in the international competition this April too? What are some of the things that you're doing, the preparations, who are the people helping you? What are the struggles that you are encountering in the process of preparing for all these things?
Absolutely. So it's definitely a first time round. So I feel like I'm going to make a lot of mistakes just because I've never been part of the pageant world. So at the moment, I'm researching and connecting with former pageant winners. And when it comes to Afghanistan, it's very unique because you don't get a lot of women that are pursuing pageantry. I'm so fortunate enough to be able to have connected with two other women that are part of the pageantry and connect with them as mentors and learn as much as I can from them. I'm in Ontario, so our gyms were locked down for a really long time.
Mm. Yeah.
So they've opened up almost about a week and a half ago. So I'm so excited to start going to the gym and practicing my walk and just getting healthier to prepare to be on that stage. And then at this, primarily for me, most of my focus, it has been like my actual advocacy, and then I look as the pageant as a platform to amplify my advocacy that I was already doing in the beginning. And then right now I'm also preparing sponsorship packages and reaching out to the community to have sponsors so then we can collaborate together on this initiative and really raise Afghanistan's flag. So I'm super excited, but I also know it's new territory, so I'm being patient with myself as I navigate through it.
Yeah, wow. We all, yeah, yeah. I was actually surprised when I found out there's Afghanistan in the Miss Face of Humanities. I got so curious, I got so interested, no, because it's very seldom that Afghanistan sends in candidate, no, for pageants, right?
Oh yeah.
And so yeah, and we all know. So having that kind of situation, we know that the fan base of Miss Afghanistan or whoever will be Miss Afghanistan is not that huge, right? That's strong. So how do you promote your country and yourself as Miss Face of Humanity Afghanistan so that people will get to vote you for the fan votes and for you to get this mileage in terms of the news, no, in the news portal. What are you doing in order for you to really promote yourself and your country?
It's actually interesting because I'm really humble when it comes to self-promotion, and I do struggle with that. So I do struggle with self-promotion. So I've been primarily focusing on my advocacy, and that's definitely an area of improvement for me. And when it comes to the voting, so for my viewers that have joined, part of the nominations are fan votes that each country gets nominated for, and on a weekly basis we have top 5 countries that are in the running, and I believe 3 of the candidates that are top 3 get to move on to be the top 15 finalists. So that is definitely something that I am going to start promoting soon. It's something that I've been so nervous about promoting because it's hard for me because I feel so conflicted because when it comes to the humanitarian crisis in Afghanistan, and then when it
Yeah.
comes to me in a gown promoting there's this disconnect for me, and it doesn't feel 100%, it doesn't sit well. So I'm like, I don't know how to promote a pageant and glamorous while
Mhm.
97% of my nation back home is starving. So it's
Yeah.
hard. It's definitely conflicting, and that's something that I need to navigate and really figure out how I can still highlight that, but
Mm.
ensure that I do make it to top 15 because I really do want this to be a
Yeah.
win for Afghanistan.
Actually, I'm very sure, no, especially if the people will be able to see you right now speaking and, sharing your advocacy and yourself. I'm very sure even non-Afghanistans will definitely root for you, no? You're not only charming, you're so articulate, and you're so genuine. We could really feel that what you're saying really comes from your heart. And, you are a very endearing person. So I'm very sure they will really,
Thank you.
support you. And I myself, my gosh, I'm so fascinated with your personality. Seriously, I never expected that you are that charming. I mean, you were so pretty on photos and then in your Instagram, I was looking at it, at your photos. But then now that I met you, my gosh, you have this certain charisma, you have this certain X factor that is so charming that people would definitely love you, especially the moment you open your mouth and start speaking. Mm.
I really hope so.
So
I
I'm
really
very,
hope so that this helps us win for Afghanistan. And if I can do that, then it's an honor.
yeah, I and then my gosh, your beauty for me is a standout. No, one of the most beautiful faces I've seen. Uh, so
Thank
far, no, I think you're so charming. With due respect to all the beautiful women that I've interviewed, no, they're equally beautiful, but you have this certain charisma. There's a certain thing that I could feel. You're so lovable, no?
Thank you so
Okay.
much. Thank you.
Yeah. And actually there are so many questions that are popping out, but then it's so fast. No, if you have questions, please put it in the comments so that we could read it for her. Because I couldn't catch all the questions that they asked because it's in the chat and it's so fast. No, but I think they're so interested. To you. Uh, Now, you stayed in. Are you an immigrant in Canada or what? Are you half Canadian, half Afghan, like that?
So I am Afghan Canadian. I moved, unfortunately, my family had to move from Afghanistan when I was 1 years old. So
Oh,
Canada has been my permanent home for a majority of my life. Though
mm,
I've had the privilege of going back home and visiting numerous times in the past few years when things became a little bit safer. So it's been an absolute beautiful journey being able to go back to Afghanistan. I've held a toy drive. I've been able to interact with the students that go to my brother's school, just sitting and talking to the girls. It's been truly inspiring, and it's part of what motivates me today to ensure that we bring to light also the positivity of Afghanistan and the true culture of Afghanistan and how hospitable it was for me. It's been it's sitting now here. I never thought that I would never have an opportunity to go back home. I always thought that I could just hop on a plane and go visit my country and feel safe in it. And unfortunately, circumstances are quite different now. So if I could go back to Kabul and visit my birthplace in a heartbeat, I would.
okay. So could you say or could you confirm at this point that you're ready to conquer the Miss Face of Humanity stage?
I think that conquer is a really, really strong word when it comes to Miss Face of Humanity. I admire all my sisters and I don't look at them as competition in the sense of
Mm,
whoever wins, I will be rooting for them from the bottom of my heart because the topics that my sisters are advocating for in terms of like human trafficking, children's rights, building water in different countries or building schools in different countries, and then also my sisters that are working on embracing who you really are and really pushing and thriving on empowering women and taking away from the insecurities that society has put on us. So when I look at all of that, it's so admirable, and it's such a tight, it's so hard like to choose between which one of us will win. When it comes to Afghanistan and Afghanistan's humanitarian crisis, I think for me, even having this platform is a lot in terms of being able to advocate for Afghanistan, but at the same time, actively making new friends around the world. And it's such a humbling experience when I have countries like Indonesia talk about Afghanistan, or the Philippines talk about Afghanistan, or America talk about Afghanistan. It's a humbling experience because I feel like I have a bigger family when it comes to Miss Face of Humanity advocating for the things that I'm advocating for. When it comes to conquering the stage, I want to win this, and this winning is not necessarily just about myself, it's about Afghanistan. So if I win Miss Face of Humanity Afghanistan, it's winning it for all the women in Afghanistan, and it's winning it for our rights, so I can actively pursue on a much larger platform, advocating on a much global international platform, traveling and advocating and sharing the stories of our women and how much they're fighting for their basic human rights.
Okay. Who among the sisters? Well, I think you met in person Louise, right? The host candidate.
Oh,
Have you
she's
met her
such a
in person?
sweetheart. Yes, I had the
Yeah.
pleasure of meeting her in person when we had our initial global conference way back in the fall, and she is such a delight to be around. I have met Miss Iran, Miss Hong Kong, Miss Rwanda. I love Miss Rwanda as well. And
Yeah.
I've had the pleasure of meeting Miss Guyana. So it's really beautiful being surrounded by such strong advocate
Mm,
women, and all their advocacies are so unique, and it's so intriguing for me. And it's like they say, you surround yourself with the people, like your 5 people that you're surrounded by. Say so much about yourself, and every time I'm in a room with these empowered women, it's like you get all these emotions and these feelings, and they're so positive and uplifting.
mm. Okay, so how far do you think you could push and pursue this advocacy? I'm very sure after the Miss Space of Humanity Global Showcase, you won't be stopping, right? You will still continue, whatever will be the outcome of the competition. So how far do you want to bring it? Up to what extent do you want to really, promote and pursue this advocacy that you are, supporting?
Absolutely. So my advocacy started prior to the pageant, and it won't end with this pageant. That is definitely something that's really clear to me. I don't think I will stop until women in Afghanistan and girls in Afghanistan can safely leave their house on their own, can access work, can access education, and they can, like right now in Afghanistan, as a woman, you can't sit in a taxi for a certain amount of time without a male companion. And that male companion has to be your father, your brother, or your husband. So until the women of Afghanistan are not oppressed and they can do what they want to do, and until the international world and international leaders start actually stepping in and start providing the proper humanitarian aid that Afghanistan needs, right now we're at it's beyond a crisis. We're in an emergency state for Afghanistan. So until we can go back to creating a safer, positive, and a full Afghanistan, I don't think I'm going to stop.
Okay, wow. Okay. If, for example, Serena, you will be meeting a global terrorist right now, okay, what are you going to tell him?
Um, it's a hard one because I hope I never meet a global terrorist. I have had several numerous messages um, through my accounts by supporters, which I don't know if they're affiliated with it or they're actually part of it, but I've had some really negative, threatening messages. And to most of them, I just like block, because the one thing that I won't ever do is negotiate with a terrorist or give them the space to amplify their voices. So if I do interact with a global terrorist, I will keep them till I can, so I can report them and have them arrested, especially if they're in Canada. Definitely, like whether it's like distracting them or something of the sort, to have them arrested and to have them pay for the crimes that they've committed, especially the crimes against humanity and the crimes against the women of Afghanistan. So really making sure that they know that they're going to have to pay for what they're doing.
Mhm. Okay, I'm not sure. What do you think? I do not know if you would want to answer this question, but what do you think is the reason why in Afghanistan women are not really given so much opportunities to, you know, to really explore themselves and to do what they want? Or how come? What do you think is the reason why they're so suppressed with a lot of things? I mean, they're not treated equally. Of course, it happens all over the world, though. But in Afghanistan, it's very evident. I mean, it's very prevalent.
Afghanistan's a unique situation, especially for women, because it's one of the most unsafe nations for a woman to be born in and to live in and to thrive. There's a lot of gender inequity. Afghanistan has been at war for over 40 years. So when you are in war, women and girls are the ones that suffer the most, and those are where they're almost made like they're second-class humans at that point. So there's that, which has gone on for numerous decades. And then also there are a lot of barriers in terms of women, like confusing religion and confusing culture and confusing dominance and bringing them all together. And it's hard because in Afghanistan, some of the conversations when I was there, when I was speaking to the girls, a lot of them, they weren't allowed to go to school. And some of the reasons that they weren't allowed to go to school was either their families thought it was way too unsafe for them to access school, or so a lot of families live in fear, so they don't let their girls go outside because they don't know if there's going to be a suicide bomb. They don't know if their girl is going to be sexually assaulted. And those are very likely to happen for a female to be outside. And then there's also the mentality that girls don't deserve their right to education, that it's not actually a right to education. So there's numerous barriers being a woman in Afghanistan, and I think it's about taking a step back and relearning and relearning what it is to be a woman, because we come from a woman, we raise women, and society is made from women. And when you look at Afghanistan, a lot of mothers can be mistreated. You hear a lot of stories about honor killings or girls being forced into marriage. And these are things that are very active, and they are happening in Afghanistan. And it's about really re-educating and relearning about what women's status is in Islam, because Afghanistan is predominantly a Muslim nation. In Islam, women are respected highly. And I believe even in the 1920s, we had the right to vote, like way before a lot of Western countries had the right to vote. Afghanistan already had the right to vote. So it's always a push and pull when it comes to that, because in some regions, women have the right and women are very active. They have professional jobs. And then in other areas, there's so much setback. So the division is one of the key components of how divided women are treated in different areas. And it's about time we unify feminism together and equality together. And I think once we relearn that, we'll definitely move forward towards protecting women's rights. And what fascinates me is right on the streets of Afghanistan, you'll see a lot of women fighting for their rights. And I would love to see, alongside my courageous sisters in Afghanistan, our Afghan men standing and protesting with them. We need that support, because the fight to save Afghanistan and the fight to save women's rights is falling upon the shoulders of Afghan women right now. And we need that support. We need more men to support women's rights in Afghanistan. And I know there's a lot of fear around it. And I know that there's a lot of things that we need to unlearn, because a woman's place is not always just at home and in the kitchen. Yes, women can be great cooks and keep a house clean, but they supply life and so much more. And it's about time we break away from generational traumas and start celebrating women.
Okay, let's talk random questions. Let me ask you random questions. Like, for example, will you marry a man who has a different religious belief than you have?
Would I marry a man that has a different religious belief than I have? That's definitely a really great question. When it comes to marriage, I think I'm very far from that in relationships, to be honest. So it's not a thought that I do have right now. But in my core beliefs, I was raised a Muslim, and I would love to marry someone that is Muslim. But should I fall in love with someone that is not Muslim, I don't think that I would want them to change who they are for me. But my preference is marrying someone that's Muslim and raising my children that are within the same religion. It just makes things much easier.
And not
However,
complicated.
yes, and especially like with Islam, and it's really hard for a woman to marry outside of Islam and still be
Mm.
granted the gates to heaven. I guess like
Yeah.
to make it a little funny for you. So do I lose my ticket to heaven or do I gain my ticket to love? So
Okay. Okay. Now, you're very articulate. You're very fluent in the use of the English language. And this question has always been asked in different beauty pageants. No? Do you think, master fluency of the English language is essential for you to, to be a queen, for you to clinch the crown of any competition?
I think that when it is a global competition, we need to be open in our minds and our hearts to different languages and the barriers that they have in speaking English. And that's why there are translators that can convey those messages clearly and elegantly. I do think that English is a predominant language that is used internationally. And we use it a lot for like business and for trade and just anywhere you go, there is English. So it's inevitable to avoid it. I don't think that being fluent in English I don't think it gives you the leverage of winning over other people that are not fluent in English.
Okay. Now, let's talk about the pandemic. No, we've been experiencing we've been in the pandemic for the past 2 years, right? Almost 2 years. What were or what is the best lesson that you've learned out of this pandemic?
Oh my, so many lessons. Fight for toilet paper. I'm joking. The lessons that I have learned is we need better change management and better communication with our people. So the messages that we receive need to be communicated better, and we need because it's so easy to take a nation like Canada where we are so fortunate, and it's so I didn't think that it was that easy to create so much fear and anxiety in people, and to see that even a nation that is so secure as we were so afraid to even go outside to our driveway. A lot of my family, like a lot of my neighbors, were afraid to walk to the mailbox, and it felt like it was just crickets in my neighborhood, and a lot of neighborhoods where it was completely silent. No one was going outside. We were so afraid that we were going to catch COVID just going onto the driveway and waving hi to your neighbor from like 20 feet away. So in moments like that, it's just fascinating to me how life can really change and how we can adapt and how we've been able to adapt. And the one takeaway for me is you don't know how someone's going to react to a situation that you are going through also. Like we're all equipped with different amounts of ingredients when it comes to strength, emotional intelligence, health, physical health, and not what sort. So COVID for one person can really be scary, and for someone else can be super mild, and they want to go out and stuff. And it's about finding the unification to balance out for everybody while following health regulations. Like how do we keep the people happy while ensuring that their health is safe. Because right now in Canada, we are having major protests in the Freedom Convoy. There's a lot of people that are really upset with the mandates and the restrictions we've had to face. And then there's also a lot of science that's saying that these are things that we need to do to ensure that we're safe. So it's about finding that balance between our mental health and our physical health. And that's one of the biggest takeaways for me.
Okay, amazing. Let's talk about the vaccination. At the start, when it was still being introduced to the world, there were so many apprehensions from a lot of people, and even up to now, because they feel that it becomes more of a political thing because you cannot enter a mall or a restaurant if you're not vaccinated. You cannot travel. You cannot ride on a certain transportation, public transportation, all these things, no? And people feel that it becomes more of a political thing rather than, it's a choice. It's supposed to be a choice, no? According to a lot of people. What is your stand on that, on the vaccination?
It's definitely a complex question. When it comes to the vaccine, I think that the science behind it, the research behind it, the ingredients that compose certain vaccines have been around for numerous years. It's been stuff that has already been in our system. It's a different variation of it. So in terms of side effects, vaccines will have side effects. That's undeniable, but it is given an emergency state, or given a crisis, given lockdowns, given the state that COVID brought us and how dangerous it was, especially for our elderly community and our immunocompromised community, I think that as a citizen, to protect yourself, to protect your family, and to protect your neighbors, it's the right thing to do. The doctors, the science behind it, they wouldn't encourage you to do something if it wasn't the right thing to do. And so I'm vaccinated, but at the same time, I can feel what others are feeling when they don't want to get vaccinated. I don't think anyone should be forced to put something into their body that they don't want to do, but I think for the collective, the greater good, we should. And it has helped in terms of like how COVID has affected us, and the side effects of COVID, and how quick we are recovering from COVID, and how less of us are being hospitalized in ICU from COVID, right? So there are positivities when it comes to the vaccine. And around the world, at the same time, being Afghan Canadian, I'm sitting here and I'm debating. I can debate whether I want to get the vaccine or whether I don't want to get the vaccine. And then there are nations like Afghanistan that are in complete crisis, and a vaccine is not even on their list. So there's hundreds of people dying from COVID, but COVID is not even something that they can think of. And there's a lot of countries around the world that are in poverty that don't get the vaccines. And in Canada, we've had our choice between vaccines, and a lot of nations, they don't have choices between any type of vaccine. So I just pray that COVID goes away as soon as possible, and we can start moving towards a better normal.
Okay, so there were so many countries, no, which were heavily affected by this COVID, by this pandemic, no. It seemed that they were not able to handle it well. That's the reason why the cases kept on increasing. There were many deaths and all like that. What do you think could have been done differently by these countries which were suffering too much from they were so overwhelmed with the increasing cases? What do you think could have been done at the beginning of the pandemic, if you will have your way, what you could have done differently?
Absolutely. So for me, I think that instead of waiting for a problem to become much larger, it's important that we tackle the problem as it arises and monitor it as it arises, but also take actionable impact. So I think that a lot of nations monitored it and saw how severe it could get before putting it into action. In the World Health Organization as well, we were monitoring and watching it, which is cautious. However, in a situation like that, I think that I would have put in place, like, if I was aware that there's a certain amount of cases that are already happening, isolating those individuals and the individuals that have been in contact with those individuals, and nipping it at the beginning so then it doesn't spread. Closing borders at the beginning before people are leaving a certain area that is highly impacted and affected by the virus. So being able to close those borders immediately so we're not exposing the rest and we're not making it a global pandemic. So ensuring that there was more control in the beginning and there was more mandates and regulations in the beginning. And we were also at the same time ensuring that people knew that their jobs were secure. So if they had to isolate at homes, their jobs were still secure. Their healthcare was still secure. Like being able to give reassurances to the population so that panic is not there, because one of the components that led to the big spread was the panic in people. You panic, you're running to the grocery store, you have COVID, you're panicking and you're trying to get everything because you don't know how long you're going to be stuck at home. You don't know about your job, so you force yourself to go to work and you spread it, right? It's so easy to spread something like that. But I think if we had more reassurance from certain governments and we had safe spaces for people to go, whether if you have COVID, you stay in a certain location, and if you might have COVID, then you have a designated hotel and you're not exposing other people. And personally, I got COVID when we were supposed to conduct our interview early in January. So I ended up, my story is quite unique because I was really frustrated. I went to the hospital for a condition that was not COVID. And because our hospital was overpacked, I was seated beside a do not sit COVID positive section.
Okay.
And
My
I ended
gosh.
up going for a different purpose, completely different, and ended up walking out with COVID. And I am immunocompromised. So it really affected my breathing for the first couple weeks when I had COVID. I had to be in isolation for 21 days without contact with anybody because I
Wow.
still strong symptoms of it. And even now, when I try to go to the gym, my heart rate's 170, right? From really light exercise. So when it comes like that, we need to take more precaution, and we really need to make sure that if it is COVID, we have a separate unit or a separate hospital. Like we're not exposing those that don't have COVID with those that have COVID, because we're just spreading it. And for me to sit here and be like, I got COVID from the hospital, it sounds really bad.
Okay. My gosh. It's a good thing that you were able to recover, no? I mean, a lot of people died from this COVID, and thank
So
God,
tragic.
okay, you survived, right?
Alhamdulillah, like I'm so thankful for God for being able to recover my health again, and that's been one of the setbacks for me, because I want to like compete with Miss Face of Humanity, and I wanted to do this live with you months ago, but I could barely
Mm,
breathe. So I'm like, okay, let me give myself time and be patient with myself so I can
yeah.
properly heal and properly advocate.
Yeah, oh my gosh. Okay. Being a global ambassador, of course, even though you are promoting and pursuing certain advocacy, of course, you can't help but to, somehow promote other advocacies as well, because, they overlap, right? Once your advocacy, for example, would definitely cover or touch some other advocacies, right? So I will be asking you some questions like, what's your views on different things like, uh, same-sex marriage? What is your stand on it?
I think that love is love, and you should be able to marry whoever you want, so long as it is not violating the human rights of the individual, and so long that it's not child marriage. I think that it's not my place to sit here in 2022 and prevent two people that are in love, that are in a healthy relationship, to pursue their marriage.
Okay. What's this? Canada is one of the very, very few countries, no, which legalize marijuana, right? The marijuana. So, uh, do you think, because other countries are still not open into it, because, they think it's some sort of a drug abuse if they take marijuana, right? Or they call Mary Jane marijuana. So, if you are, for example, in a different country, would you push for its legalization?
I think that it's really important to respect the different society in that country, and really understand where they're coming from. Like, I would never insert myself into a different country and demand, just because my home country, Canada, legalized cannabis, and then going and be like, you must legalize cannabis. Like, it's not my place to do that. However, when it comes to cannabis, there are many aspects of it that have helped with medical um, situations, and then also with like generalized anxiety, depression, there like body soreness. There are many benefits from it, and I think that Canada's approach has been very safe. Even like the process to legalize it has been from a very educational standpoint, and I don't think that people are going and abusing it. They're right.
Mhm.
Like, it's not. It's something that is very regular. It's not really looked at as something that is being abused right now. So I don't think that it's a bad thing to happen. I do think that the population of that nation needs to be prepared for that, and needs to have more of an open mind to it if they do embrace it, the legalization of marijuana.
Okay, let's talk about mental health. No, we all know that not only teenagers suffer from it, and as a matter of fact, the recent news, no, the former Miss USA, also was suffering from it, and everybody was shocked. People all over the world, teenagers, adults, they commit suicide because of that, of this. What advice would you give to the world, to humanity, in order for them to at least confront this kind of illness, this problem?
Mental health hits really close to home for me. I'll share a personal story with you. So a few years ago, I
Mm.
was hit by a car as a pedestrian, and I ended up breaking 30 bones. The
Wow.
healing from the bones was the easier part for me. The PTSD from the accident and the depression from the accident. So I went from a very uh, social life, a very extroverted social life, always hosting
Mm.
parties, always going to places, working, to completely and not talking to anyone because I wasn't hosting anymore. Like, I wasn't myself anymore, and I would have
Mm.
a lot of nightmares. It impacted my school, it impacted my work, it impacted my relationships, and for someone that's been on and off antidepressants and generalized anxiety medication, it really affects you as a whole. And when it comes to depression, it can consume you. And I also have gone through anxiety, and it's a really tough thing to go through, and it's so hard to show the world, and it's something a lot of us don't speak about or don't share, because what you see on the outside was not what people
Mm.
see on the inside. And when I saw what happened to Miss USA, it didn't surprise me. It didn't surprise me at all, because a lot of people, when I get close to them and I do tell them about like my story or my experience with depression and anxiety, they don't believe it. Like, it's like you're miscredited because you look a
Mm.
certain way, or you conduct yourself in a certain way, or what they see, what you post on social media. But it's so hard to show the internal suffering when it comes to that. And I think it's so important, uh, if you are suffering, if anyone watching this or watches this after, if you are suffering, know that you are loved, and that there is help, and then that there is hope at the end of the road. That every depression can be healed. You can feel better. Anxiety can be tamed. There are ways where, whether it's through therapy, whether it's through medication, whether it's through meditation, or whether it's just through praying, there is hope. And if you need help, I will personally be here to talk to you, or be your friend to talk to you through that. And I think it's time we start destigmatizing mental health, and really understanding that just because you don't see something on the surface of a person, that they are suffering. And we need to stop discrediting it, because a lot of people that I'm surrounded by, they'll speak about like having anxiety, and it's just shrugged off. You're just stressed, but you can be
Yeah.
super overwhelmed, and feel like your back is against the wall. And at moments like that, you do want to give up. And I've had moments where I've been at a stage where I don't want to do it anymore, right? But it's just knowing, it's being able to like reground yourself and bring you back to reality, and detaching a little bit of the consumption of depression. and I pray for everyone that is going through that, that they find the help that they need and the healing that they need.
Mhm. Okay. The form of bullying nowadays mostly transpire in the internet, no? Cyberbullying and all. Have you experienced, receiving? Yeah, well, you mentioned you were receiving hate comments and all like that. But in your social media account, have you been bullied? Like, have you been bashed a lot? And how did you handle that? How did you cope with that?
Yes, I have experienced being bullied on social media and cyberbullied,
Mm,
especially when I stood up to advocate for Afghanistan. It's
mm,
been hard because some of the comments or some of the messages that I receive, and there's a lot of misinformation being spread and a lot of competition within our community, unfortunately, and there's been oftentimes where people take misinformation or miscommunication, even if you're not involved in it, and they will spread it like wildfire. And people are on social, they are more likely to spread negative wildfire than to support someone. So, especially being a woman and being an advocate, it is such an easy target for someone, especially carrying Afghanistan's flag. It's been, I've had really hard moments where I've woken up with absolute tears, and I've said that I'm going to shut down my social media accounts. I'm not going to do this
mm,
anymore. I can't handle this. Like, and they say that if you get bullied online, they're not in front of you. Someone's not punching you. Just log off, right? And I've gone through
okay.
that where I'm like, yeah, I could just disconnect and it's not going to bother me because I don't hear them. But the one thing that I did also think about was if I disconnect, they won because they silenced me. And the one thing that I
Okay.
do have is the freedom in my voice, so I won't stay silent. I'll keep on pursuing it. And it's about being able to
Mm,
detach from those comments and not taking it to heart. Like, that's what I try to do. I'll read some and I'll be like, okay, this person is angry. I pray for them and I pray they get better so they don't think that it's okay to write these hateful comments. But it's not
mm.
my it's not for me.
Okay. Uh, what's this? What do you think is the greatest, invention that transpired in the last 10 years
In the
that has
last
been very
10
useful to you or to
that
humanity?
in the last 10 years, what has been the greatest invention? I think that in the last 10 years, the way that we have embedded social media in our lives has been
Mm,
the largest impact in our everyday life and technology in terms of smartphones. So in the last 10 years, how much evolved because we're carrying around pocket computers. So some of the times we're using our phones for everything but a phone call. And I think it's definitely impacted and shifted in the way that we interact, the way that we conduct work. It's a major component of our life. We use it for business, we use it for social, we use it for medical, we use it to pay now. 10 years ago, you wouldn't be paying for your phone. You forget your credit card at home, you have
mhm.
your phone.
Yeah.
You play music. There's so much of our phone that consumes us. It feels like another organ. So I didn't think 10 years ago my phone would be equivalent almost to like an organ for me, like a necessity to carry around.
Okay. Okay. This is a difficult question for most of the girls now because uh, the question goes like, if you won't be representing Afghanistan and Canada, which country are you going to represent
Oh.
and why?
This is a really, really tough one for me because I've spent most of my life in Canada. But when it comes to choosing between the two, I am very fortunate to have been Canadian and to be Canadian and to be here and to be part of such a beautiful nation. And the one thing that I can look at Canada and say, while we do have our problems, while there are many issues that I would like to promote about Canada, especially when it comes to um, our indigenous community, and there's so many um, barriers that Canadians still have today. While I'd love to advocate for these items, I know that Canada's still going to be okay. So knowing that I am there with that, I would it would be an honor to represent Afghanistan and to stand with the women's movement in Afghanistan. And Afghanistan needs me more. Like I feel like between my two homes, Canada is sturdy and strong, and it could do okay without me for now. But Afghanistan is shattered and really, really needs me, and I need to prioritize and put my attention to those most in need. So, without hesitation, it would be Afghanistan.
If you will have your way, do you have any plan of bringing your family or your parents to Canada?
So my two older brothers and my sister live in Afghanistan. I have put in applications for them. It's been so hard getting any type of movement on it. When it's so difficult for my family because this is blood. This is my brother is has been a father figure for most of my life because my dad passed away when I was really young. So he's my oldest brother, and just to be able to be reunited with him and to know that he's safe and to know that my family is safe, it's hard to sleep at night knowing that I don't know if when I wake up if there's new development with my family there, and our house is being surveilled by the Taliban back home. Conditions are really dangerous. We've had to obviously shut down our schools, and after my nephews were arrested and assaulted, it's really hard for my family to ensure any type of safety. So I hope and I pray and I'm hopeful that they can come here and we could all be safe. And then from a position of power, we can work together to help more girls access their education when things are a little bit more safer in Afghanistan.
Okay. This is a question from the Miss Face of Humanity organization that they want me to ask to all the girls. Why should you be crowned as the Miss Face of Humanity Global Ambassador?
Um, it would be an honor to be crowned as the Global Ambassador for Miss Face of Humanity. I believe that my heart is with humanity. I think our moral values align in terms of love for humanity. And I love Afghanistan so very much. I love Canada, but I also love all these other countries. I've been working in nonprofit, and we help provide various different types of aid and sustainable development in over 80 countries around the world. So while my advocacy right now focuses on Afghanistan, I would be honored to be able to help as many countries and as many women in need, as many, like anyone that needs help or needs advocacy, I will be there for them. And then also when it comes to Miss Face of Humanity, it is ever so rare for Afghanistan to be part of a pageant. Even though it's an advocacy pageant, it is a competition, it is a pageant, and it is so rare that you see an Afghan girl on stage pursuing such type of activism or such type of work. And this win, like I've been saying from the beginning, is just not for me, it's for my entire nation. So winning this will show girls in Afghanistan, girls all around the world that are Afghan, that they can do it too. And that we will find creative and unique ways to raise our voices and raise our flags, because we are not going to be erased. What is more a symbol of fighting oppression and female erasure than having an Afghan represent a global organization as the Miss Face of Humanity?
Okay. Now, let us try to, I would like you to give your messages to different people who matter to you. Let's start with your family. What is your message to them?
I am very, very grateful and very thankful and really blessed to have the family that I do have, to be able to give me the resources that I've had throughout my life, especially when I look at my mother. She made a really tough decision to leave her home country and bring us to Canada. So my parents had to, because there's so many siblings. My mom came alone with some of us, and my dad stayed back with some of the children.
Mm.
So to be surrounded by such independent, courageous, resilient women, it's been absolutely admirable. And I'm so thankful for having um, all the different stories and all the different lessons that I've learned from my older siblings, and to see my mom continuing to strive forward and being the strong individual that she is. I am truly blessed to be part of this family.
Yeah. How often do you, when was the last time that you met your parents and your family in person?
So my mother, I live with my mother, but my brothers are in Afghanistan. The last time I was
Oh,
able to see my brother and my sister, the ones that are in Afghanistan, was in 2018. We had
wow.
our tickets booked for May 2020. We were supposed to fly down to Kabul. However, given the pandemic, my mother and I didn't go,
Yeah.
but my family, like my brother and my nieces in Canada, they went to visit them, and they just made it shy of a few days before the complete collapse of Afghanistan.
Okay. Message to your Miss Face of Humanity sisters.
I am so in awe and inspired of all the work that you all are doing, and I am learning so much about so many different things that are happening around the world, and I'm learning so much about all your advocacy, and I'm so proud to be connected with such strong, empowered, beautiful women that are not only beautiful on the outside but truly beautiful in their heart and so compassionate. So I am so excited, and I'm so excited for. I have a little bit of a project brewing for Women's International Day, so I'm so excited to work with all of you on that.
Wow. Your message to Afghanistan.
To my message to Afghanistan, this it's hard, and we haven't had justice for a very long time, but we are not the same Afghans from 40 years ago, or 30 years ago, or 10 years ago. There is hope, and we will fight this fight. Even if we have to fight it independently, we will fight this fight. And I hope that we have our allies beside us to fight this, and we're not going to lose. We're not going to lose. I know it's been quite a few months that they've taken over our land, but just because they are in power, it will never take away from who we really are. And we are Afghan, and we have centuries of history embedded in our culture and who we are, and that will not be erased. And we will fight. And I pray and I hope and I feel it in my heart that we will get our country back, and we will finally find peace. We deserve that peace, and we will have that peace. So hang in there, and together we are much more empowered.
Okay. Now, of course, I'm very sure you have won fans all over the world, no? Especially for those who will be able to see this later on. I'm very sure you will be able to win them and to have their backs. And what is your final message to humanity?
My final message to my family on social and my supporters, I I'm so thankful for all of you, because I do need your support. There are several different challenges that require your support for me to move forward to the next round, and I will be sharing that with you. Um, and I'm so thankful to have your support. This is never something that I ever saw myself doing. I didn't think that we would get to a point that I would have to step in and advocate for Afghanistan at the level that I am also. But when life changes and emergency and crisis happens, we have to adapt. And if it has to be my voice, then I have to do what I have to do. And I'm so I'm so honored and humbled to have your support and have you watch my journey and encourage me on my journey, because the days that some people do reach out to me and it's the random messages of, you go girl, you got this, don't worry, don't, like, whatever type of encouragement that I do receive, some of the days are really, really hard. So those little pieces of encouragement, knowing that there are people out there that want me to continue doing what I do, it really motivates me, and it reminds me that this is a much, much bigger picture, and that we're in this together, and that I really want to win this for Afghanistan, for all of us. And I hope that I can make you proud, and I really, really hope and pray that I can make you proud, and that we can create change together, and positive, impactful change.
Okay, there are so many positive comments that I'm seeing, but because it's so fast that I couldn't read. I'm so sorry, guys, for those who have been messaging a lot, because I couldn't really catch their messages. But everything is so positive. Everybody supports you. Everybody loves you, and we do love you, Miss Afghanistan. It's such a pleasure, having this session with you. I've learned a lot from you, and I was able to, get to know more about you. So I'm so thankful for this opportunity. This is something that I could cherish, for the rest of my life, because you are indeed a very, amazing woman.
Thank you so, so much for giving me the opportunity to talk about myself, and for connecting with me and rescheduling this session with me. I was super, super excited for this interview, and I really appreciate it. So thank you so much. And for all my viewers and all the positive messages, thank you so, so much. I can't do this without you. So thank you. I am forever grateful for all your support.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's give a virtual round of applause and a virtual hug to the Miss Face of Humanity Afghanistan, simply Serena. Thank you so much. I enjoyed this session. It's so heartfelt. I really feel it's so genuine. I love your personality. I wish you all the best in your journey for the Miss Face of Humanity.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I hope to stay connected with you in the future. And let's see what Miss Face of Humanity has in store for us. On April 2nd is our finale at the Metro Toronto Convention Center. So I hope to see you there, or I hope to see you virtually there. Thank you.
Yes, and definitely, we will keep in touch. I will be supporting your cause. I will also be one of your supporters. Count me in as one of your supporters.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Serena.
I hope you have a wonderful night.
Exactly. It's a very fantastic night for me to be able to talk to you, to interview, and to get to know you. I'm so excited. I'm so happy, and it's worth the wait. It's worth the wait. I've been wanting to talk to you since a month ago, but then now finally I was able to meet you. And there's a different connection that I could feel towards you. So I'm so simply, I'm really grateful. I'm really grateful. Thank you.
I'm so grateful too. I'm so grateful for this interview and for connecting with you and meeting all these wonderful people that I have through my journey so far. So I'm forever in gratitude to all of you, and I wish you all an amazing day or evening, depending on where you're tuning in from. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you again. Again, hugs to Miss Face of Humanity, Afghanistan, simply. Serena, let's support her, ladies and gentlemen. She deserves our support. Thank you, Serena.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.